Hello everyone, welcome to StickyBrickit. In today's video I've got something different for you. I'm doing a review of some bits I've been sent from a company called StickyBrickit. StickyBrickit.com is where you can find them, and they do a number of custom parts for Lego, including stickers, capes, pauldrons, flags and banners, you name it. So I've had bits of this company before for one of my custom builds, and they've sent me some of the other bits they do for me to have a look at. So what do I think of it all? Well, let me tell you. So as you can see, I've got a host of different bits here that have been sent by StickyBrickit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look through them and show you a number of different parts that we have here. So for example, I've got a whole host of capes for different themes, both Lego specific IPs or some of their licensed IPs. I've got pauldrons, cameras, banners, again for all those themes, and some custom stickers to look at too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look through some of these, just showing you the product itself. Then I will show you them on minifigures. I'll give you my thoughts and critique them, and we'll look at the prices as well, of course, and then we'll look at them with some sets that are specific to the themes. So I've got some of my classic sets here, things like the message intercept base for Tron, for example, and we'll put some bits on them, some banners and whatnot, and see how they look. So we mentioned Tron a moment ago. Let's start with them then. So you do have classic space is one of the themes that StickyBrickit do cater for, and they've sent me Tron specifically because I do have one of the older sets and I could kind of give it a proper show. So this is one of the capes that you can get, and this is of course the classic Tron logo from Tron 1. As well as that, they do have the Tron 2 logo on a cape, and they have a couple of their own designs, but obviously based around Tron and what you'd have seen in the classic space. So you have the classic space logo there, sorry, there it is, with the Tron logo also. I'm not sure if that was ever a thing in Lego, whether they ever did that and had Tron with their own variation of the classic space logo. If they did, then fair enough. I don't remember seeing it, so that may be a custom, but based on obviously the IP itself. And then they sent me this one too, which is another custom. Again, not one I'm familiar with, if it has any significance to Tron itself, or if there's something I'm misremembering, but they're the four for Tron. I'll show you through a few, and then I'll give my thoughts to keep the pace up rather than stop every time. We'll keep with the classic theme for now, and we'll go on to one that's made a bit of had a bit of a renaissance recently, owing to a CMF, a very popular CMF, and that's the Wolfpack, of course. And here's a classic Wolfpack logo on a cape, and I do really like that. I think that's very nicely printed, as were the others, but I think the colours on this one just pop. That silver wolf with a black background and the nice clear bright red around the trim looks good. I do like that one. One of my favourite themes as a kid were the Forest Men, and have two different capes for them. As you can see, you have one of the single hold, if you like, capes, so that will just go onto the neck of a minifigure. Like I said, I will show you them, of course, in practice. And that's that one. And then you have one of the newer kind, I guess, where obviously you fold it up and then put it on. And again, we'll look at it. And you have the brown trim this time, and you do have inside another logo minus the trim for the inside of the cape. Here we have some licensed IP. So this is Lord of the Rings. These are Rohan capes, and you again have two variations in terms of how they will attach or be fitted onto a minifigure's neck. I'm not a big Lord of the Rings fan. I never read the book. I have seen the films many years ago. I don't remember huge amounts about them, but you have the two different logos there. Again, you have the green with dark green trim, and again you have logos printed on both sides, but this time the trim is also on the other side. And finally, for capes, we have a number of superhero themed ones. So here's a Spider-Man one with the classic Spidey logo on the one side, and a variation of it on the other side. And you've got the black web motif on the red. Have a few more here. There's an X-Men one. I do like that. Again, I just think the colours really pop. That yellow and blue look very nice together with the X-Men logo, of course. I mean, these may not be necessary in the strictest sense of the word in terms of what the superheroes wear. They're just something extra if you want to kind of dress your minifigures up, I guess. And there's one for Thor with his hammer. I believe this would be for Iron Man, perhaps. Not huge into my superheroes. I do get a bit confused as to who's who sometimes. It looks like that could possibly be for Iron Man. I would assume that's Captain America. Yep, that's Captain. There's a shield. So again, I do like that blue with the red trim. Nice and vibrant. Very nice printing. I will give details of exactly what material these are made out of in a moment, by the way. I should have said that. A few more. So you've got another. Again, I'm assuming that's for Captain America. But a variation. Not quite as colourful, that one, but still quite effective. There's one for Wonder Woman. It's quite a classic looking one. It very much reminds me of the 1970s, I would say, perhaps, in terms of kind of her look in the comics. And one more, which is actually a different material. You can, I'm sure, see that in its reflective nature. Single printed, this one, in terms of the sides. And I would imagine, again, that's probably for someone like Iron Man. Okay, I have in front of me now a number of the banners, flags, and the pouldrons, and there are some canvases that we'll look at as well. These are for a number of different themes. I'm going to rattle through these, and whilst I'm doing that, I will give you some information on the material used for these items. So let's quickly have a look. So there are a couple of the Forest Men ones. I do like those. I wonder if personally I would have gone with the green as the predominant colour and maybe the brown for details. That would mean that your trees and your leaves are brown rather than green, but perhaps would have looked a little more aesthetically pleasing. I'm not sure. That's a very personal thing, but I do like these. And again, they are double-sided. There's a flag. For the Forest Men, of course. We have Wolfpack here. Again, the flag. And again, I think this one is just spot on. I think the colours just lend themselves very nicely to this type of product. And that silver, the silver wolf is, yeah, bang on. Really do like that. There's one of the banners for them. The one thing I'll say about this is I wouldn't have had the paw prints personally. That's another flag there. I just, for me, that kind of diminishes the look a little bit. I'd have taken them off and I think that would have been absolutely spot on. Personally, I wouldn't have had the black tips either. I'd have left that red. And just, yeah, have faith in the product that it will stand out, and you don't need as much sometimes on everything. You know, less is more. And yeah, I wouldn't have had those details, but I do love these Wolfpack ones. I think they look great. We have some of the Lord of the Rings ones here. Again, I said a moment ago, I'm not a huge fan of Lord of the Rings, so I can't give you details as to what these are. But what I can say is the colours really do pop. And this here, actually, this green and brown combination is kind of what I wish they'd have gone with here. I think it would have helped this stand out a little bit more. I think this looks lovely. Yeah, these Lord of the Ring ones are fantastic. The colours are just right. I don't know how accurate they are to the source material. I can't comment on that. But from a visual standpoint, I think these look great. And I think these would definitely spruce up any battle scene that you're having in regards to this franchise and your Lego figures, of course. One more for the banners, and this is a black Tron one. Again, I wouldn't necessarily have had the green. I do appreciate that's a lot of black without anything else on it. Perhaps move the logo down a tad, see how that looks. But I'm not sure I would have had the green. But then saying that, when I put it out on the base later, it might all make sense. It might all come together. So we'll see. But yeah, I do like the overall look of the banner though. Here are a couple of the pouldrons. So I've got the black Tron ones, and you of course kind of fold these up, and then they'll sit on the shoulder of the character. And we again, of course, we will look at those properly, and I'll show you the canvas in a moment. I'll do those separately. I'll give you some details on the materials used at this point. So this comes from StickyBrickit themselves. They've given me a proper breakdown of what they use so I can relay that information to you. So the capes, flags and the pauldrons are made from a custom material produced from a UK-based media print company. It's a 50-50 mix of cotton and polyester, and it involves a manufacturing process that helps to prevent fraying. Both sides are then given an inkjet compatible coating so that photo quality images can be printed on both sides. The designs are machine cut and then coated on both sides to protect the design and help prevent UV fading of the inks. There we are, so a mix of cotton and polyester. They are quite firm, you know, they're not particularly flexible. So we'll see how that looks and how they stand up when they're actually on the models themselves. That will kind of be the acid test. About the aesthetics quickly before we move on, the one thing I will say about them is, and I have mentioned this to the company, and they're very good at listening to feedback and took on board what I've said, but I will repeat it in the video because it will be obvious to see, is where they've been printed, especially with things like this where there's an asymmetric design. Obviously this is a letter B for Blacktron. The printing process means that it's reversed and therefore is the wrong way round on the other side of the cape. Now obviously this would be hidden by your minifigure. Your minifigure would stand there of course, but it's still not quite right. So I did raise that with them and they hadn't even really realized, you know, on some of their designs that would be an issue. So that's something they're of course going to look to rectify. There are some other bits and bobs for me personally, being very picky, but it's a review, that's what it's for. This B I would have made a lighter green, more like a lime green, as Blacktron 2 was a lighter green. And things like the Blacktron 1 logo, I'd have had this a bit higher up the cape. It's a bit too low for my liking, so that it sits once you've folded it. So forget that there, because that's not really part. And of course you do have the fold here. I'd have had it just under there. I think that still would have worked. It would have, for me, looked better being that little bit higher up. We'll have a look now at the Camoth design. The reason I've done this separately is because this is the one that I think I have the most to say about in terms of critique. So here is a design for one of them. This would be for Blacktron really. I mean, it's obviously quite simple. It's the black with the green trim. And my biggest issue with this, I'll put it on a figure and I'll show you it and then we'll have a chat about it. So there it is on one of the Blacktron figures. Try to get a bit closer so you can see. Now the folding process does leave you with a lot of excess material owing to those folds. I'm sure you can see it here and here. And that's not the first time I've seen something like that with Lego. Now I will say that I don't collect Lego that calls for these very often. I'm thinking Star Wars would be a big one where you'd have things like that. I don't collect Star Wars really, so I'm not a big authority on these, but I have seen a few of them. Things like Ninjago, which I do collect, use them at times, and I'm actually going to show you here now. This one, this Camoth was from the Lego Ninjago movie, one of the sets from there. I think it was like the water spider, whatever it was called, Nia's mech for that film. So I'm going to take this off and show you it, because if you notice, and it is a bit old and folded, so apologies if it's hard to get a grasp of what I'm saying, but if you noticed, the two outer flaps are angled. They're at about 45-degree angle, and what that means is when you fold it up and of course put it onto the figure, by the nature of those angles, you do alleviate having all of that excess material, and it looks much cleaner as a result. Now it could be the material used. I'm not enough of an expert to know, but I do believe that if the material is what it is and that's what you use, you could still avoid potentially having it look quite so bulky by angling the flaps on the outer side a little more. I could be wrong, it's just my thoughts, but if you can see, that's very straight, whereas the one we just looked at for Nia, it was kind of angled like that. And I wonder if there's something they could do with that to potentially just ease the excess material around the sides, because I do think it detracts from the overall look. Yeah, the Camoths are the ones of everything I've just looked at that for me don't quite work, and it would be nice to see if that could be resolved without, you know, wholesale changes of the material you use, whether it is a material problem or whether a bit of creative thinking in terms of how you fold them or how you angle them when designing them could fix that. Okay, we're going to have a look at some of these bits on minifigures now, and then we'll finally look at some scenes with the banners and what have you, the flags, to see how they look, and then I'll give you pricing details, and then we'll wrap the video up. So I've got here that same Black Tron figure. This was from the GWP that came out a couple of years ago. I do have some original Black Tron figures, and we'll see those later, but yeah, he'll do for now. He's absolutely fine. We have the Wolfpack figure from the CMF series, minus his cape that he came with and his hat, just so for ease, so we can get these on. And then I have Cyclops from the X-Men, as we did have an X-Man themed cape. Let's start with Cyclops then. So which way around should we go? We'll go with the yellow inside. We have the blue and yellow on the outside, so you fold the two over, very similar to capes that you've seen in CMF series over the years and what have you. Just hold that in place for a moment while I put his head back on. There we go. That actually works really well. That's a very good cape. It fits him nicely. Has a nice flow about it. It's kind of billowing around him. And that actually adds quite nicely to that figure, whether you think he should have a cape or not. That one's very impressive. I do like that. Let's go with the Wolfpack figure. Now, of course, the latest CMF did come with a cape, and it was like flocked, wasn't it, if that's the right word? It looks great. It was a very different sort of material. I mean, of course, that's for a CMF, where they go the whole hog in terms of, you know, production values. If you've got an army of these, and you're wanting some capes for them, then let's have a look and see how this looks. I think that looks really good. You do have, obviously it's the design where you will have, similar to the Camoth that we just mentioned, it will stick out owing to the fact that you have to fold it, of course, but I don't think it matters on the capes. On the capes, I think it looks absolutely fine. It looks like it's billowing out. It is perhaps a little pronounced, but I think if I've got that on my figure and he's on my shelf or in a scene, I don't think I'm unhappy with that. I think that's absolutely fine. I do love that printing. Really nice, very bright and vibrant. His hat, will it go on with the cape? Yep, it seems to go on. I like that. I think that looks good. Very happy with these capes so far. You going to stand? Yeah, you are. Right, final one. Let's do the Black Tron now. He has got his oxygen tanks, so we're going to take those off, of course. And he has a pauldron that will try as well. I'm not sure if both will go on together. We'll try, we'll see. But let's put the cape on to begin with. So let's just get his head back on for a minute so we can see the cape. Then we'll have a look at the pauldron. So there he is with the cape. There it is. Yeah, like I said, just on this one it's very personal, but I would have just brought that Black Tron logo up a tad. Just, I don't know, 3 or 4 millimeters perhaps. Just personally. So it's not quite as low on the floor and it's more centered, if you like. But that still looks good. I do like that. Let's have a go with this pauldron. Let's see if we can get both on him at once. There it is, just it on its own, just so you can see it properly. Again, you know, obviously you're going to have this because of the fold. And it's a sturdy material, you know, so you're going to have the rigid nature of it, and that's okay. I do think that looks good. I like the pauldron. Let's just try it with the cape on too and see if that works. There's the cape. Put his head back on. Give it a bit of a salt. Actually, that's not too bad. So yeah, there you go. They do fit on together. If you'd like to fully deck out your army of whichever description, genre, faction, etc., you can, yeah, give them the full Monty. Let's look at it all together now on an actual Lego set. So this is 6066, which is the Camouflaged Outpost. This is a set from my childhood. One of my absolute favourites of all time. Let's just stand him up. sleeping on the job. And yep, I have put, as you can see, banners and a flag and pauldrons and capes onto the figures to just give it a look and see how it all comes together. I have to say, I think this looks great. This was the one I was most intrigued about to see how it would all work. I'm just going to shift it about a bit so you can see. Let's go front on for a sec. Those banners look fantastic. I mean, obviously, whether the Forest Men would have wanted to advertise themselves this strongly is another matter, but that's by the by. They look great. I really do like these. I think they fit very well. And actually, I said earlier about the brown and the green. To be honest, it looks very good once they're on. And that's the difference, isn't it? Sometimes you have to put it on something to really make your mind up. And yeah, I think they look fantastic. There's a flag up the top there too, which again, I think looks great. The set did come with a little plastic red flag. I've just replaced it with this custom one for now to see how that looks. There's another small flag on here, which uses the set's actual flag pole. And then I've got a number of different capes on the figures that you got with the set. There, he's hiding the treasure. Look, this is a great set. Stick that in there. Track that down. But yeah, let's have a look at some of the capes and whatnot. So this pauldron actually, first of all, is from the Rohan Lord of the Rings bits. I just wanted to give it a try. It's like a double pauldron. It goes across both shoulders. Again, it is a little bulky here. But I do actually think that looks quite nice once it's on. I'm not the biggest fan of the pauldrons. I'm more for the capes myself. But I do quite like that one. This cape here has 3 holes. So you've got the centre hole and then 2 either side. And because of that, actually, it gives quite a nice... Sorry, there we go. Quite a nice fold. Isn't quite as bulky as the other ones. Actually, it's probably my favourite of the designs. I actually used angled points, which we discussed with the Camoths and Nia's Camoth earlier. So that's actually showing that perhaps just angling them would alleviate that problem. And that's probably my favourite of the capes, as I said. Looks really nice. We've got another one here. And this one uses the other type of design that we saw earlier. And because of that, you do get that jutting out a bit. I don't think it really matters. I do think they look quite good. Once they're on and they're displayed, I think they look absolutely fine. But I did prefer the other style. So this one is a 2 holes, I believe. Am I right in saying? Let's have a look. Yes. So that's 2 holes, which is why that one just juts out a bit. And we have up here one of the actual pauldrons for the Forest Men. There it is. And again, I like those. I think they look good. You can wear an accessory with it. As you can see, he's got the basket on his back. Still goes on quite nicely. Fits quite well. And the final one was the single hold cape that we looked at earlier, which I did worry would do exactly this and not have enough malleability to take the shape of something else. I mean, over time it might, but you're never really going to be pushing it down enough with anything to allow that to happen. And because of that stiff nature, it does stick out. So my least favourite just because of that. But what I will say is that if you're having him riding a horse and it looks like it's billowing out behind him, perhaps that's using a bit of artistic license to explain away a potential problem there. I also tried it with my Black Tron message intercept base. As you can see, I think the banners in particular look great. I think the place I put them, so just inside the base where you have the launching point for the small ship, that seemed to make sense to me. And because of the play mechanic of this set where you can open and close the roof, I think that looks quite nice because as you open it, they come into view. I think that works well. And again, I have a number of capes on display here for the various Blacktron workers as they're on their base. And then I also used the Rohan Lord of the Rings ones, despite the fact I don't have many Lord of the Rings sets, certainly none on display. I used it against this medieval set, which is one I bought with my wife on our honeymoon. We went to Legoland for one night as part of our honeymoon many years ago, and we bought this jousting medieval set, which is lovely. It's a great set. And as you can see, I've put two banners on that are different to kind of represent the fact there are two different kingdoms jousting in this tournament together, and the flags atop the building. And if you move across, or as I move across, you'll see the medieval blacksmith is also there. And again, I've put one of the banners on there. I think it really does complement the scene. You know, obviously it's not meant for this particular set, but I can really see the benefit of them when it comes to banners and flags. The capes are a close second. I think on the right sets they look great, especially the free hold capes. I think they're my favourite, as I said. The pauldrons and the camas are not so much for me. They seem a bit too fiddly for what they bring to any scene. But the banners and flags I actually really like, to the point that I'm going to keep them on my Camouflaged Outpost. I will modify it and get it looking better than I've got it looking now, but I think they really do add something to that scene. Let's look at pricing now then, and we'll start with stickers, which we've not gone over much. I will say the stickers are of a nice material. They're printed on glossy vinyl using colour matched inks so that the colours match the Lego bricks, and I've got some examples of that in a minute. Once printed, they're laminated and then cut, of course, on a vinyl cutting machine. Now the price of these, so here's, you can see some kind of medieval ones. The price of these, they sell for £20 for an A4 sheet, which this one is, or £10 for an A5 sheet, and they say they try to get as many stickers on a sheet as they can. There's no limit. If they can fit more on, they will. These are some of the stickers on bricks. So these are kind of nice classic bricks. We'll just see some of those in the Camouflaged Outpost a minute ago. You can see the cut. Nice and tight. No overlap. No overhang. She's really nice. And that's a lovely vibrant sticker. And they do match well. You can see the black border of the sticker against the black of the brick there. Yeah, really nice, professional looking stickers. I had some of these made for my custom model, my sweet shop, and I'll put a link to that video in the top right hand corner. And there is a spelling mistake in those, but I will say, I did put it in the top pin comment, but the company that obviously StickyBrickit watched my video, and I'd noticed the spelling mistake after the video went out, and I was like, oh no, that's really annoying. But I was going to contact them, and before I'd even got a chance, something turned up in the post, and because they'd seen my video, they'd sent me replacement stickers with the correct spelling. So yeah, top-notch customer service there. That was quality, and yeah, these stickers are lovely. Like I say, I've used them myself, and they're very, very good. Pricing for pauldrons, capes, banners, etc. There's a number of different options available, some different price points. You've got £20, £40, and obviously that will depend on how many you get. So for example, the £20 will get you 8 capes, 8 pauldrons, 4 flags and banners, whereas the £40 version gets you 40 items of the bits I've just mentioned. So £1 an item basically when you break it down. There'll be links in the description to StickyBrickit.com, so you can have a look yourself if you want to pick anything up. And all's left to do really is go over my final thoughts. To conclude, on the whole, I do think that these are a very good product. The stickers are absolutely brilliant. I've used those before. No issues there at all. The capes, I think, are of a good standard. There's no fraying. The printing is of a high quality, nice and vibrant. There are a few different variations based on how many holes they have to put around the character's neck, and I do prefer the free hold versions myself. I think they look the cleanest, if you like. The pauldrons and the camas I don't feel work quite so well because the material is quite stiff. They don't look as clean, again to use that word, as the capes, but that may just be me not having much experience with those particular items. And there were a couple of bits with the printing themselves, like the pictures being the wrong way around, but like I said, I have discussed that with the company already. And some of the capes, the X-Men one on Cyclops, for example, was one that I would never have expected to be that fussed about, that ended up really being quite impressive to look at. And the Forest Men one looked great. So if you do have any large sets, you can really spruce them up with some of these banners and flags. And of course, if you do army build, you could really make that scene look all the more impressive with some of the capes and the other bits and bobs. So there you have it. That's my review of a few different bits sent to me from StickyBrickit. Thank you to them for sending these bits over. I hope you've enjoyed this video. There'll be links down below if you want to check out the company. They are lovely. I've been speaking to the fella for a while about just about Lego in general and other bits and bobs. And like I say, he made the stickers for me for my sweet shop. And I do like the bits that I've been sent here. Like I say, I've got some critiques, but yeah, on the whole, a good product for sure. Don't forget to subscribe if you've liked this video, or check out some of my other content. But until next time, happy building.